Darkcast Network, indie pods with a dark side.
Hi, this is Kelly.
And this is Jenny.
You're listening to ODFM. This episode is One Deviant from Murder.
See the shadow whispers in the night. Judgmental eyes casting their spite. A world divided, darkness within. Hate the sinners, love the sin, lost in the chaos. Where do I begin?
Ooh.
I know. So, everybody, this is my friend Jenny. I asked her to fill in as a guest commentator since Jenna is still on hiatus. And Jenny is one good friend and so fun. So, thank you for doing this with me, Jenny.
I am honored to be here and fill in for Jenna.
Yes, we needed it. All right.
Another Jen.
Oh, so many Jens.
Right?
The world would be so much better if all the Jens ran it.
I mean, let's be honest.
Seriously.
Let's be honest.
We could make a whole Jen government. I'd be down for it. All right. Are you ready to hear a murder story?
I cannot wait. I'm obsessed with murder stories. So
good.
This is amazing.
At least you're not obsessed with doing murders.
True.
Then I'd have the inside scoop.
I mean, that could make for a very interesting podcast. So I'll keep you in mind if I ever turn murderous.
Okay, do. And we could just blur you out.
Yeah. Do the voiceover like I sound like a computer. And then I'm just all blurry.
Ooh, I'll make it super creepy.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So in this story, we're headed to Australia, to Adelaide. Down under. So it's the 1990s, and we're going to a conservative town known as the City of Churches. So I would get lightning struck right away if I walked into that area. Yeah.
We'd be on fire. Oops.
Heathens
Yes.
have arrived. All right. So we're talking about a guy named John Bunting. He's a man who he appears to be nothing more than some ordinary bloke, just a good guy. But underneath the facade of normalcy, he harbored dark, violent thoughts.
Oh, John.
I know, Johnny.
John, it sounds all American, and here's where we go.
All Australian.
Immediately. Exactly.
So he has a deep hatred for those he deemed deviants, which were pedophiles. Agreed that they're deviants. But the worst part, he thought homosexuals were deviants because he immediately thought they were pedophiles just because they're homosexuals, or anyone he felt didn't fit his twisted sense of morality, which was very twisted. So
I'm sure. Fun. So basically everybody
but himself and who he chose.
Well, he's perfect.
Yeah. I mean, he's one of those. So this guy, Bunting, he has this magnetic personality, kind of the guy, like I think of cult leaders are like this, the charismatic.
Yes.
He could rally others to a cause. He seemed to know all the answers.
That Kennedy effect. They just draw you in.
Yep. Kennedy effect, indeed. And that's kind of exactly what he did. So in the early 90s, he started forming a small group of like-minded individuals who he shared his warped views with. And he forced his warped views upon. So they're like, yeah, we'll believe anything you say, John boy.
Yes.
But he wasn't just talking. He was planning some shit. It's almost Manson-esque. I don't know. His plans, I know, they involved turning his hatred into action. So,
oh no.
I know, this guy's creepy. So the group would eventually include a man named Robert Wagner, Mark Hayden, and James Vlassakis. And each of these guys had their own troubled past, obviously. I mean, you don't come from a good family usually and have these things happen, have the vulnerabilities. But Bunting, he's this master manipulator, and he knew exactly how to prey on them. And he was twisting their loyalties in a way, like to make them complicit in his crusade. So, yeah. Sicko.
Creative.
He is very creative in a bad way.
He's crafty.
I was going to say, he should have turned to crafts. That would have been better, but no.
I mean, basically, yes, he should have taken up knitting at this point.
Yeah.
He's doing it in like human form, it sounds like.
That's what he is. He's knitting up his own group.
He's like weaving. Yes.
Weaving up some sick ass shit. So his first known murder was in 1992 when he was just 25 years old. So his victim was a 22-year-old man named Clinton Treacy. Treacy's? I don't know. Clinton.
We'll call him Clinton.
Yeah,
Clinton T.
Yeah, Clinton T. Bunting suspected him of being a pedophile. Had no reason to suspect that or anything, but he just thought you look like a pedo. So
yeah,
he referred to him as Happy Pants. I'm not sure why. I don't know. Clinton might have been gay, and so he gave him this moniker that he felt was demeaning, which it was. So he decided he needed to be hurt.
disposed of.
Disposed of. That's the word. So
wow.
Yeah, he's a guy. So this crime was brutal. Clinton was bludgeoned to death. And Bunting had
there we go.
Bunting had treated this murder like many do, like one-off killings. So people who just kill one person, they often kind of panic, put the body in their trunk, and then drive it to some remote place and dump it.
Right. Or just let it sit in the trunk for a week until
it starts seeping out. Yeah. So he did that, although he did put it in a shallow grave on some remote farm.
Oh,
so that was his
that is
first.
Sweet of him.
How nice.
That is really
that
kind
he actually
of him.
Buried it. He's a piece of shit. Yeah.
Ugh.
But the body of Clinton wouldn't be found for 2 years. And Clinton was this drifter who had like zero contact with his family. He had very few friends. So finding him, nobody really even knew who he was or why he would be killed.
Right.
Nobody was really looking for him, which kind of freaking sucks. It's sad.
That's sad. Poor Clinton.
Yeah, he was just kind of in a vulnerable state, and Bunting took advantage of it. Yeah. But it seemed for little Mr. Bunting, he was the perfect target. Clinton was to get away with what seemed to be this dark fantasy of his that he could finally put into action. And that was just the beginning. This was kind of before he gets this crew of lackeys working for him.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah, so
this band of misfits.
Band of misfits, but worse.
Yes.
Yeah. So in November 1998, Elizabeth Hayden, she's this Mary. I mean, mother.
Maybe.
maybe again.
Yes. It's a miracle.
It's a miracle. I had 7 children. She's a married mother of 7. Living in an I don't know how people. I have 2 and I'm dead. I don't know. People are amazing.
Yeah, I have none, and I just can't even imagine. And I'm literally dead. So there's that. 3, I feel like, is a lot. That's where you start to get outnumbered. But 7, like
7,
birth control, baby.
Yeah. This is like a team,
soccer team, or what are we doing here?
But being that they're in this possibly Catholic, I'm assuming, area. I don't know. Maybe birth control was frowned upon.
Yeah, probably. It is the devil.
Oh, indeed. So much. So she's this married mother of 7. She's living in an impoverished neighborhood because who can afford freaking 7 kids? This neighborhood is Salisbury North, which is a poorer area of Australia. And she disappears without a trace. All these kids now without their mama. Ugh. But instead of her husband, Mark, coming to report her missing, it's her brother who reports her missing. So police are like, that's weird. So
why is the husband always like that?
I know. It's always.
Dang it. And then they're like, I don't know why they think I'm the number one suspect.
What?
I mean, I didn't report her missing, but that's normal, right?
That's totally okay. What? Yeah. So the police bring Mark in and they're like, this is Mark Hayden. So Mark is later a friend of John Bunting's. So
we're setting the stage.
Yeah. So Mark comes in and he's like, I didn't report her because she made a pass at another man. So obviously she left me.
Oh,
Right. Because she left her 7 children behind.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. It was that hot young guy probably from, you know, the other neighborhood. Like,
Yeah. The
come
not
on,
so
really?
impoverished neighborhood. Yeah. So his friend, John Bunting, vouched for him and corroborates the story, insisting that Elizabeth had left voluntarily and they all knew about
Mm.
it. But something was off to police. So Mark showed absolutely no concern about her whereabouts. You know, he's just like in there, whatever, she's gone. So police are like, yeah, something's weird about this guy. We're gonna look
Right?
into him a little bit.
This is sounding like Scott Peterson all over again.
Oh, so true. I haven't watched the most recent shit about him because
Oh,
I'm a little worried about it. Yeah.
well, you know what? I was too, but it actually probably favors what you
Okay.
would want to see in here. So that's a relief.
Okay,
But
good.
yeah, these men drive me crazy.
Mm-hmm. They think they
Literally.
can get away with it. And many do, I
Yes.
guess. Many do. But
Sadly, yes.
yeah. Elizabeth's disappearance was just one in this thread of this tangled web. Like you were talking about, it's this what weaving he was doing.
Yes. Yes.
It's a
He's
nasty
doing
ass
his
blanket.
crafting. He's doing his crafting, baby.
He did, and it's ugly. No one
And
wants to buy that shit.
he's got that book club going, the
He
crafting
does.
club.
Yes, the
It's like,
crafting club, and it's all men who are creepy.
yep.
So there's this name that kept coming up during interviews in the investigation into Elizabeth's disappearance, and the name was Robert Wagner. He's another friend of John Bunting's. So he's friends with both John and Mark Hayden, and he wasn't a stranger to police. So police knew this guy. He'd been in trouble quite a bit. So when his name cropped up, investigators are like, oh, well, shoot, we have another thread right over here we can pull. Just a year before Elizabeth's disappearance in 1997, Robert Wagner's male lover was reported missing. So remember, John Bunting doesn't like people who like the same sex. So when police investigated the missing man's bank account, they find weird withdrawals are still being made even though this guy disappeared. So they set up a surveillance camera outside of the bank where withdrawals were coming from. You'd think they'd already have one, but I guess they didn't. So they set up the surveillance camera and they catch Robert Wagner withdrawing money.
Oh, yes, they did.
Yeah. And they also discover while they're looking into Robert Wagner that another former partner of his had also vanished, as well as some of John Bunting's former neighbors. There's like, where are all these disappearances coming from around these men?
Where are all the hot guys going here? Okay.
Oh, it's so true.
I mean,
all
where
the
are all
hot
the hot
gay
guys?
men are disappearing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Those stylish, gorgeous men, they're gone.
They're
Bye.
gone. We do not want to live by Bunting because they're all gone. The gorgeous men. So yeah, this pattern's emerging and police are linking at least 5 disappearances to this group of Bunting, Wagner, and Mark Hayden. So now they're like, okay, we need to start watching this group. Some shit is going on. And they begin surveillance. They even apply for wiretaps, which I'm assuming there must be hard. Like here, we have to go through a shit ton to get wiretaps.
Yeah.
And they get it. So they catch the men using all this weird coded language. Like they'd say things like, we're going to the clinic was one. And another was, it's time to play. They like to say that a lot.
I mean, maybe they really were going to the clinic. I mean, we're testing for some STDs.
We might have some shit going on.
And then we're going to play, aka we're clean, so we're going to go party. We're going to go have an orgy. Clean. Let's play. We're clean.
That's probably what it is. They were all suspicious.
Play. Yeah. So, it was like a code within a code.
Oh, it sounds like a more fun code than I was imagining. So
I mean, they're partying. Let's be honest, they're partying. Okay,
partying, and by partying, they might be killing people, but
subject to interpretation.
Absolutely. So the police follow them into this place called Snowtown, and it's a small town near Adelaide, Australia, and they discover this key piece of evidence. It's the Hayden family vehicle. So that's Mark Hayden. You know, his wife was Elizabeth, who went missing.
Yes.
They find this vehicle there and they're like, weird. What's it doing in Snowtown where neither of them live? So they start following them and seeing what these guys are doing with this van. So they follow Bunting, Wagner, and Hayden, where they track the vehicle to an old abandoned bank. And the owner of the property tells police, yeah, the car's contents, I keep seeing them move stuff into the bank vaults. I don't know what they're doing, but they're doing something. And supposedly this place was supposed to be used as a storage space for computers and electrical equipment. They go in there and yeah, there's tons of computers and electrical shit. But when they go into the vault, they're not expecting what they discover. They open it and there's just this black tarp, kind of plastic. You know, it makes me think of Dexter.
I was just getting ready to say Dexter style. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, plastic wrapped around the whole room. So they go in and the smell hits them first. This putrid, overpowering stench of death. Yes. And inside the vault, they discover 6 barrels. It's never a good sign to find barrels.
Oh, no. 6?
6. Yeah.
Oh, great.
They find knives. They find hydrochloric acid and a hand saw.
Oh, yeah. We're partying, apparently.
Party. This is a
party with
room.
The saws. Yeah.
Oh,
yeah, it is.
Yeah. So they open the barrels. They find human remains in all of them. Some are dissolved into goo. Others are mixed in dirt, and some are just bodies wedged into these barrels as body parts. Not all of them. None are intact.
Of course not.
No, because that's not part of the party.
No, it's not. I mean, unless the party is a puzzle. Now it's a puzzle.
Oh, now it's a puzzle. It's like Survivor switched.
Right? Like, okay, how do we play this game? How do you win?
I don't want to play this game. I don't want to be a part of this game.
No one wants to play this game except for him.
Except for these freaks. Yes. Oh, so gross. So this vault becomes a crime scene. And authorities are quickly working to secure the area, knowing that they have to keep this discovery a secret because they don't have these guys in custody yet. So they're so afraid it's going to be tipped off somewhere and these guys are going to run. Luckily, yeah, of course. So luckily they're able to keep it pretty quiet. And on May 21st of 1999, police arrest John Bunting, Robert Wagner, and Mark Hayden. The bank building was leased in Hayden's name, but the men refused to cooperate. They're all tight-lipped and the media soon, of course, they don't want to say they were partying hard with bodies.
No.
So the media here gets wind of the story and news crews just come flooding in, of course, capturing images of the men being taken away. And Bunting, it's so creepy. He's smiling the whole time that they're pulling him. Yeah.
He probably enjoyed being on display and being that attention.
Center of attention. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Look at the things I've done. I'm so amazing.
I feel like so many killers, serial murders, they enjoy that.
That's what they want.
Like, ooh, yes.
Ooh, look at me. Look at how great I was and how long I went before I was caught. Ugh.
Right.
So now forensic scientists, they're the ones putting that puzzle together, that horrid puzzle of identifying
that VIP party going on in the vault.
Yeah, now it's the forensic people's puzzle. So acid had been used to try to destroy these bodies, but as it was weird reading about this. I guess it does dissolve some things, but actually it can also work as a preservative. So it actually preserved some of these bodies better than they would have been. So through all this painstaking work, the scientists matched the body parts to each other, eventually identifying 8 victims in the barrels.
8. Are these like 8 adults? Like how do even cut up? How do you get 8 people in 6 barrels?
I know.
Like
so gross. Yeah.
Oh.
Maybe there's those fashionable thin young men.
They must have been on Ozempic. They must have been on a semaglutide, really lost that weight. So, they slimmed down for that barrel,
they were
apparently.
Just bones by then, yeah.
I mean, they kind of did the work for the killers.
Absolutely. This is why we should eat lots of cake.
I mean, this is why we love to eat,
this makes
we're going to make it harder. Yeah.
I'm not making that shit easy. Yeah.
Try and get me and then try to do something to me
And
because
then
there's a
try to
lot
put
there.
me in a barrel, baby, because
Yeah.
that's not happening.
No.
Oh, so now the focus shifts to James Vlassakis. He's just 19 years old. He was in this orbit of these men. He had been living with Bunting, he was suspected of being involved. So how it had worked was when James was just 14, John Bunting started dating James's mother. And so Bunting moved in with them. Yeah. So they lived together. So he's kind of forced into being a part of this. And they believe James is the key to unraveling the story because he's so young and you can tell he's very uncomfortable with it and he's scared to shitless. He's terrified for his own life.
He probably thought he was going to be next.
Yes, absolutely. That was part of it. So James tells police how Bunting had manipulated him, not a shock being that he was so young. He'd become a father figure after moving in with his mother, and James reveals chilling details of Bunting's obsession with what he called cleansing society of those he deemed unworthy.
Oh, cleansing, huh?
Yeah.
Cleansing.
And those would be pedophiles, homosexuals, and drug addicts were his biggest targets, apparently. He talks about how Bunting had bragged about his first kill to him, to James, that Clinton Clinton, that 22-year-old drifter, Clinty. And in the house that Bunting shared with James and his mother, but John Bunting would hold a kind of sermon where he spouted his hate for pedophiles and gays. And Mark Hayden, Robert Wagner, and James would listen in awe at his twisted preachings and kind of get pulled into it, and believed him because he was so good at it. Whoa.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah. It's one of those charismatic leaders.
Yes. What did he look like, by the way? Was he like good looking? Have you seen a photo of him?
Yes, he was okay, but no, not like I would have thought. A lot of those guys are really
Sometimes
hot.
I feel like when they're really handsome or good looking, people almost believe them even more. It's like,
sure. Well, you must be because you're so hot.
Yeah, you're hot, you're smart, you've got it all going on.
Yeah.
So clearly what's going on here.
In American terms, he's not so hot. Maybe in Australian terms, I don't know, but
well, that's true.
Yeah,
He's okay though.
He's okay. Yeah, I should have gotten photos to show you of all these guys so that you could see what you thought for yourself.
Oh, I'll be Googling.
Oh, yeah.
I'll be like frantically
Robert
all right, yes, I got to see this Bunting dude.
During these sermons, after his first killing, Bunting felt like it was time to do what he considered vigilante justice and to include his friends in this because they
obviously
party. It's time to party.
Exactly.
So Robert Wagner and Bunting, they choose the next victim, and his name was Ray Davies. He's their target. Ray is an intellectually and mentally impaired man who happened to be a neighbor of Bunting's. Yeah. So now I wonder are intellectually impaired and mentally disabled, are all those part of the cleansing he's doing?
I feel like now it's just like, hey, he's an easy target and
he's different than us.
Yeah. Absolutely. Add him to the list.
Yeah. It's disgusting. And all these neighbors, you think of anything, you'd want to go outside of the area you're at so you're less suspicious.
Right. Clearly they're not very bright, like so many are. They're like, well, the guy that lives 2 houses down, he'd be a great target. Like they're lazy. That's what it is.
They're lazy. You're right.
Bunch of lazy bitches.
Bitches. So they get this Ray guy. They kidnap him. He's tortured for hours and strangled to death in Bunting's home. So his body, they decide to bury it in his backyard. And when they're burying it, the others realize, he's being buried right next to someone else who's already been buried here.
No.
Her name her name was Suzanne Allen, and she actually was a former fiance of this guy they just killed, this Ray Davies. So don't know when that happened. Nobody really knows whether she must have been first before this other guy, but nobody's really aware of when. Bunting with his friend Robert Wagner, they had taken over both the victims' welfare payments. Maybe that was a good reason that they were both gone.
Motivation.
Yeah. So, and this is what they would continue to do whenever they killed somebody. They would take over their lives, basically their money. So a year after killing Ray Davis, another neighbor is chosen as their next victim because, once again, why go out of the scope of your neighborhood when you could be lazy?
Absolutely. I mean, the guy on the other side of the street, he's got to go too. Like, next.
Next.
We're just putting him on the list. He's got to go. Yes.
So this one was 19-year-old Michael Gardner. A close friend of Michael's family had this kid, Michael, house sitting for her while she's gone. So when she comes back, Michael is gone along with a lot of her belongings. So at this point, she's not sure if Michael left on his own or he's dead. That nobody knew what happened. He's just gone. Spoiler alert, he is dead. But he
Michael.
Michael, I know. And he's only 19. Like, I have a son older than that.
See,
sad.
that's super sad.
So sad. He had been targeted simply because he was gay. So he must be a pedophile in Bunting's mind, which
of course
makes no sense. Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
like,
also, just take note. You should not house sit because this could happen to you.
No
okay.
Shit.
So
or don't make friends with the neighbors. I don't know.
Yeah, don't be friends with the neighbors and definitely decline that house sitting invite. Yes. No thanks.
Yeah,
no thanks.
Especially in that kind of neighborhood. Maybe we go to a better neighborhood.
I mean, I think we're in a good neighborhood.
Yeah, I hope.
Until we're talking about it. Hey.
Yep, that'll be next. Ooh. Okay, so James explains to police, he's still talking to police, about how Bunting kept what he called a rock spider wall, which was a chilling display of Post-it notes connected by strings, connecting the names and addresses of people he believed should be punished. And I found out rock spider is slang for pedophiles in Australia. No clue where that comes from.
Rock spider. Again, we're lacking the creativity. Like, he's a crafter, but he's not very creative.
That's true. He was trying to make this pretty wall, and it was really disgusting. So this basically is his hit list. It's a wall of his hit list, and it's just growing. And I always wonder about, like, his girlfriend that he's living with. Why isn't she? I don't know. She must have been
Does she notice this?
Like, she was part of it. They think that she even took part in a little bit of it, but they're not sure what parts. Probably the stealing of the funds and stuff.
Correct.
So John Bunting himself, he had grown up in an impoverished home with a very conservative father and an unloving mother. That's a shitty recipe for something like this. So psychologists believe that Bunting himself had been the target of a pedophile as a child and had been raped a lot, probably. So, this hatred can be kind of understood, but the killing part of it, not so much. So,
right. This is like sounding very Menendez brothers, you know, like, oof. Like, I mean, you sympathize, but then also there are other alternatives to murder.
Absolutely. I can understand it, but dude, and especially why bring gay into it? Probably because his rapist was a man, so he assumes
he assumes that he's gay. He's gay,
which is rarely the case. It's usually that gay rarely works in tandem with pedophilia. So
yeah, he's just mentally ill, and maybe he's bisexual. Who knows?
Yeah, that could be, but taking kids is a whole different thing. So gross.
That's unacceptable.
So while in custody, Robert Wagner was examined at length by detectives. And he told them, Bunting's this great leader. He's someone he could respect. And he just basically becomes a soldier for him. And when he was just a kid, he had first met Bunting. He had been in this relationship with another man. But it wasn't really a relationship. At the age of 14, this Robert Wagner, he had been kidnapped by this man named Barry Lane, who was a pedophile. And he was kept by Barry into adulthood. as his kidnapped lover. So it wasn't like he chose, but Robert Wagner was gay, but Bunting believed that Robert was a victim, which he was, but it was his job to save him from Barry Lane and make him straight because he thought he could do that.
I mean, he's a magician, so obviously.
Yeah, save the world. So when Barry began suspecting that Bunting and his boy toy Robert were killing people, and he started speaking up about it, they decided to go after him. Although I'm thinking he was already on their hit list because he was a pedophile. So
of course.
Yeah. So for Robert,
I would hope so.
Yeah, he should be one of the first, if any. So for Robert, the torturing of people is what he craved. Bunting liked the killing. Robert loved torturing, which is sick. So he loved to. What's
perfect.
that?
Like the trifecta.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, they've got it all covered at this point.
Everybody's got their position.
Absolutely. Yeah. They know their role.
Robert apparently had some big old guns on his arms, and so he liked to choke people out over and over again. That was his thing. Before finally killing him. So this is exactly what he and Bunting did to this Barry Lane. So he was another of their victims. And then in 1997, police find a man hanging from a tree outside of Adelaide. And police see him hanging and they're like, yep, that's a suicide. But yeah, so they just case closed. That was a suicide.
Yeah, moving on.
Yep. But they find out from James that the victim was an 18-year-old schizophrenic man named Thomas Trevelyan, and he was one of those killed by Bunting. He, too, had been a former partner of Barry Lane, the pedophile who had raped Robert Wagner growing up, which means that this was also a gay man. So to Bunting, that means he should die. So James is lured into the circle. I mean, he was just a kid, lured into this kind of initiation ceremony at one point. So he had come home, and I'm assuming he was still a teenager at this point. He arrived home that he shared with his mom and Bunting. And Bunting and Robert Wagner are at the house, and they're like, hey, James, come follow us. We've got something to show you, which is not what I'd want to hear. Yeah. I don't want to go to your party.
Should I bring my camera? What kind of fun are we about to have?
What are we doing? Should I bring my saw? No. So
my bat, what, a knife?
Yeah. No, son, you don't have to do any work. Some drugs. No, he doesn't like drug addicts. So watch out. Oh,
that's right.
Yeah.
Nope.
Don't bring that. Mm-mm. Yeah. So James follows them, and they lead him to a shed on their property where they show James the body of a young man. Well, this young man happens to be a good friend of James, and like James himself, was a heroin addict. So this is the first time we learn that James is an addict. So
see, I knew he was into the drugs.
So James knows that Bunting hates addicts, and he considers them trash that needs to be gotten rid of. So James thinks at this point, okay, I must be their next target, or this is a bad warning, like get off the drugs or this could happen to you. So he's terrified. Which, yeah.
I mean, that's parenting, he's just...
It's just parenting.
He's just parenting, right? Here's a dead body.
Happen.
Yeah, This is your brain. This is your brain on drugs. This is your friend. This is your friend on drugs.
He's now dead. A way larger statement for it. Yeah. Wow. Yeah, you're taking this a little far, Johnny.
Go big or go home, right?
That's what he thinks. I think he got the message. So James tells police about all this, and he tells them about Bunting's kill circle and how they had started to decide to bring in someone else. So this is when, at the point that they brought in Mark Hayden, that was the guy whose wife, Elizabeth, had disappeared at some point. So Mark was described as simple-minded and easily manipulatable. Easily manipulated. There's the word.
Manipulated. There it is. Whoop, there it is.
Whoop, there it is. So he makes this, so that makes him perfect for Bunting's circle, come on in. You can help us do this work.
Yeah.
And Mark was the type, he's happy to do anything he's told. So the group decides, okay, we need to target someone else. We're getting bored. So they target Troy Yude, so this little James, he's teen, probably late teens at this point. This Troy Yude is James's half brother. I mean, they do not go outside of the circles they know, it seems like.
Wow. It's like, oh, yeah, that's your friend, that's your half brother, that's your ex-wife or your current wife. That's easy.
And how many times could we do this before nobody notices all these people around us are dropping dead? It just blows your mind. But so he makes this great victim, Troy does, because when James was growing up, Troy had repeatedly raped him throughout his childhood. These guys.
What is going on in this town in Australia?
Come on, Aussies. Why are we having so many childhood rapes? This is not okay.
I mean, seriously. They're taking the term down under, like literally. Down under.
No, going down. Oh, maybe that's why it's termed that. I don't know, but
it's got a whole new meaning now.
Horrible.
Come on.
I know. So they go and grab Troy Bunting, or no, Troy Yude.
Woo.
Yeah, he's kind of related.
I mean, maybe.
Totally. So they go and grab this Troy. They take him to Bunting's bathroom and torture him for hours upon hours before he finally passes away. So though the man had caused all this trauma to James growing up, James he was there during the event, but he couldn't stomach watching it. So he kept having to walk away during it. Which I think, Bunting wanted him to be there. Like, hey, enjoy this. Look at what we're doing to your own.
Yeah, we're doing this for you.
Yeah.
Like, I'm being such a good father figure for you.
It's terrible. So, but James, to save his own hide, he's like, oh yeah, I really enjoyed it. Yeah, this is great. Thanks. Where inside he's really disgusted and
right.
horrified.
Can you imagine if that was done like now? Like I would expect him to feel obligated to take photos or be asked to take photos. Should I Snapchat this?
Yeah. Oh, totally. Should I put this on Twitter, YouTube?
Yeah.
We should YouTube this.
Yes.
Yes. It's disgusting. So the next victims, because they're not done, they're just getting started. No. The next victims are Fred Brooks, who's a mentally handicapped young man, and Gary Dwyer, a disabled man, both chosen just because they are vulnerable.
What in the world?
I know.
I feel like they're the laziest band of misfits ever.
Yeah, that's part of it. We'll just grab all these poor people around us.
Yes. Like people who maybe can't properly defend themselves. Like, I mean, come on. If you're going to do it, like, wouldn't you want like a little bit of a
challenge?
Yes. You would think. If they were real killers, they would want the challenge.
Right. If they were good. And why, if they're after the money, why wouldn't they get somebody with actual money? This is like an impoverished actual money,
not like, cool, I got their welfare check. This is literally like amateur hour at its finest. Do better.
So right. Do better, boys. Yeah. So they got these guys. And Bunting is so excited because he got a new device. A new torture device. It's a voltage device. So he loves electrocuting these men over and over and over again until they are strangled and put into barrels. So they are some of those found in the barrels.
So they made the VIP list.
They made the room. They made the party room.
The room. Yep.
So Bunting had chosen to put the bodies in barrels at this point, according to psychologists, because of his fascination with dead bodies, and putting them in barrels kind of made it a way where he could keep them, because if he's dumping them off in the desert somewhere, it's harder to visit them. But if they're in barrels right in a vault, I can go and party with them whenever I want.
Absolutely. It's like having a loved one's ashes, just a loved one's body parts mixed in with a few other people.
Creating a goo.
The goo.
So that's Mark Hayden, one of the killing crew. He had a garage at his house, and that was the initial location that had been storing the barrels. But so Mark, this was when Elizabeth was still around and Mark was a little bit simple-minded. So he had told his wife too much. Oh, and then he went and told Bunting about it. And so he's like, well, I guess she's got to go. So they knew because Elizabeth had disappeared that the police were going to come to Mark's house to investigate. So they had to put the barrels elsewhere. And that is why they moved them to a vault. They're like, dang it, we'll have to move our goo crew somewhere else. This isn't going to be a good spot.
Can you imagine what that was like moving that though? Like,
that'd
just
be so
the
heavy.
smell, the weight. Like, what if they had gotten in an accident? Like, if it was in like a trailer or the back of a truck and somebody slammed into them and body parts.
Oh, body parts everywhere.
Yes.
Oh, thank God they
now
did
that's
not.
a party.
That's a party I don't want to be a part of.
No.
I think I'll stay away. Once they had killed Elizabeth, he decided those barrels needed to be moved. And hers hadn't been the last killing. Oh, even if you can believe it. So this is like up to 10. So James Vlassakis, he's still talking to the cops. He's like, okay, Bunting asked me at one point to lure somebody to Snowtown and to the bank vault for another party, as you would say. So it wasn't just any young man. This was David Johnson, who was James Vlaskis's, was he his stepbrother? Yes, he was a stepbrother of James.
With the family again, like the laziest group of killers.
Yeah. And the thing about David Johnson is he's 24. He's unrelated to any of the prejudices. He's not gay. He's not a pedophile. He's not a drug addict. He's this smart kid who's going to school, smart college student. So they only chose him because, like you said, he's convenient. And David's torture ends up being one of the most brutal, long, and painful. And the sick ritual of cannibalism was taken on where they each ate part of his body.
Stop.
No. It's like, let's bond over this. So gross.
Oh my gosh. Now this is giving me like Yellow Jackets vibes. Have you seen that?
Yes.
Oh my gosh. That was so good. So good.
Yeah.
But again, like I feel like they're lazy. Like they could go around the corner and hit like Burger King or McDonald's, but no, they want to bond and feast over the stepbrother.
I know.
Like,
and it's all of James' family. Like, dude, pick someone else. Like, pick someone else's family. You all got cousins.
Right. Stop eating all my friends and family. Jeez Louise, I've got no one left, okay, at this point.
Can you just choose someone else by now?
Right?
On June 2nd of 1999, after 6 grueling days of recounting all of these horrific events, James is charged with murder. So he's the first one charged, even though he's the one giving them all these details. But they're like, well, he's admitted to all of this. So a month later, the other 3 men are finally charged with 10 counts of murder. So James's trial began in 2001, and it was long and demanding. I mean, there are so many pieces of evidence and so much details. So he goes into it. He's charged with 5 charges of murder. He pleaded guilty to 4 of the 5 and ended up being sentenced to 26 years in prison instead of life for agreeing to be a witness for the trials of the other men. So he had to testify.
I mean, that's good for him. I mean, bad he was involved in the first place, but geez.
Absolutely. But being
26
so young,
years for basically, being a part of that.
Being a part of 5 killings, probably. So he did return to court to testify against the other men. Mark Hayden pleaded not guilty as he claimed to be a sidekick to the others, which he was that kind of simpleton, but he still was involved in it.
Nice try.
Yeah, which they did. Nice try. But they did drop his murder charges, but he was found guilty of assisting the offenders. So he was given 25 years because I think they did some psychiatry tests on him, and it was that he was a little more on the mentally challenged side. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. So Robert Wagner and John Bunting's trial began in 2002. Wagner was charged with 11 counts of murder, but pleaded guilty to only 3. And Bunting is charged with 12 counts of murder, but pleaded not guilty to all.
Obviously. I mean, what did I do wrong? I'm helping clean up this neighborhood here because I didn't want to kill anyone off the street.
That was his exact defense. He said he was ridding the world of pedophiles who were dangerous to society. So he wasn't guilty.
I mean, we should be grateful for his service to.
Thanks for your service.
Yes. Thank you for your service.
Yeah.
Sir.
Except like only 2 were pedophiles. So I don't know.
Right.
Where he came up with that. But during the trial, neither man showed any remorse or emotion for the suffering they caused. I mean, so many families, so many victims. Disgusting. But in September of 2003, Robert Wagner was found guilty of 10 murders. So there were 11 to 12, and they couldn't prove a couple of them. He wasn't charged with the one of Suzanne Allen that was found in his backyard, which is shocking because it's in his backyard, but the jury was caught up on her cause of death. Like, could she have died?
Get serious.
I know. Like, could she have possibly died from natural causes and you buried her? But even that should have a charge with it. Like,
yeah, then you call 911 or call someone and have them get her. Not, I'm going to bury her in the backyard with my dog.
No, something's wrong with that. Yeah, so they let him go on that. But he was found guilty, and both men will be in jail for the rest of their lives. So that's good.
Oh my gosh.
That is the story. There's like, I think a show called The Snowtown Murders that's based on them, or a movie. So that would be one to check out, and a book, of course, but freaking psychos. So it's known as Australia's worst serial killers.
I believe it. And I'm already like in my mind, as you've been telling the story, like thinking of who, like almost painting the picture of what they look like and, you know, their mannerisms. So I can't wait to look up photos.
Go look them up. Yeah.
Yeah. See how close I am. Probably
see how
completely.
They fit.
Yeah.
I know.
Probably not at all, but
I know. They never fit what I think they're going to look like, but yeah, they might.
It's like, wow, you look totally normal. Like not like the psychopath that you are.
They absolutely do. Mark Hayden does have a little psychotic look to him. I felt like a little bit, but he was
like a hot psychotic look, or like okay.
Like a homeless psychotic look.
Not a good psychotic look. Okay.
No. But yeah, you'll have to check them out.
Oh, I can't wait.
But thank you for joining me and being my guest commentator. It was so fun. I don't get to do enough, so this was perfect.
I know. I was truly honored, and I was so excited. I'm like, oh my gosh, I feel like I'm going to want to do this more now.
I know, it's fun. Yeah, and if you do, let me know.
Cool. Thank you.
Well, thank you, everybody. We'll see you next week.
Bye.
A special thank you for my friend Jenny for being on the show. She is especially snarky and hilarious with so much sarcasm, and I freaking love it. As for sources for this episode, sources include medium.com and a show called Crimes That Shook the World, The Bodies in Barrels. Thanks again for listening. See you next week. Thanks for joining us for another episode of ODFM. ODFM is hosted by Kelly DeVries and Jenna Swanson. Editing and production is by Kelly DeVries. Theme music is by Eric Swanson. For images from each episode and more, follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok with the handle ODFM Podcast. For video episodes, subscribe to our YouTube channel by searching for ODFM Podcast. If you are looking for more content, chances at prizes and more, become a Patreon fan at patreon.com/ODFM podcast. Subscribing to our Patreon is a great way to help us get better equipment, and our big goal is to hire an editor someday, so your contribution could really make a difference. If you can't give monthly, there are other ways you can help. Share us with your true crime friends. Word of mouth goes a long way. Or you can give us a one-time contribution through buymeacoffee.com/ODFM podcast. We appreciate your support, and someday we hope to make ODFM our main jobs with your help.